Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Realtor Hacks, Tips, and Tricks. I'm one of your hosts, Hallie McCrory, and want to wish you a happy new year. This is our first episode back. It's 2024. We're ramped up. We're ready to go, ready to get rocking, and we're starting this, I guess, I was going to say season, I guess this year. We don't really have seasons, but we're going to start this year off strong, talking all things luxury real estate today. I've been getting a ton of requests from people to have a podcast like this, and we're bringing in one of our good friends here. I'll introduce her in a minute. So like I said, Hallie McCrory, two-time icon agent, mentor for Tariq El Musa's real estate team, and host for American Dream TV, an Emmy-nominated TV show. And I've got my lovely co-host, Casey Stiers, on. Wait, this way.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yes, also a real estate agent and also a host for American Dream TV. Actually, all three of us are hosts. So I'm a host in Dallas, Casey's a host in Raleigh, and Audrey's a host. Oh, look at my little bubbles going. And Audrey's a host in Scottsdale, Phoenix area. So yeah, Casey's all things downtown Raleigh, North Carolina. And really, she works the whole state of North Carolina, but everybody knows her for being the downtown guru. And we're super excited today to have one of our good friends from eXp Realty on, Audrey Myers. She is total badass. Like, I feel like girl boss is such a, it's kind of like a cheesy, but like truly you just embody girl boss. Like you do everything yourself. So she started out as a real estate attorney and now is a luxury real estate agent. Also a two times icon agent, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So she's just absolutely crushing it. And we're super excited to have her on today, just with her background and the market she works and the success that she's had. Welcome, Audrey. Thanks for coming on the podcast. We're so excited. I do want to take a second for everybody that's listening in or watching. Please don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. Leave us a review if you feel so inclined. Always open
to
bell
up top.
Yeah, and don't forget to
make this the best year yet.
Yes, yeah.
Coming back to you.
Yes, and please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, social media, wherever you prefer to follow people. So, welcome, Audrey, and thank you for coming on. We're excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. And I look at you, Hallie, just as another lady boss. So,
I know, all three of us love it.
So cool. You're doing everything.
Trying. I know. And I have to tell you guys, I do have a mobile IV person coming. I feel like I have a little cold, or maybe in Texas, we call it cedar fever when you get really bad cedar allergies. So she's coming in today. So if you see somebody off in the side, just ignore it. This is what we've got to do to keep rolling. Just being relatable here. Okay, so back to the podcast. So Audrey, please, I would love, I think I want to start off with you just telling us a little bit about your background, maybe how you got to be a real estate attorney and then how you got into real estate from there.
Sure. So my story, I am a born and raised hog farmer's daughter. So we have corn and soybeans in West Central Illinois. So I was just raised by a very hardworking, educated family that, inspired me to do big things in life. So I went to college at Illinois Wesleyan, which is 2 hours south of Chicago, and graduated there with a business degree. And I knew I wanted to do something mentally challenging. I'm a nerd, I guess. So I interned for a public defender down in my hometown and just fell in love with the law. So I applied and went to DePaul Law School in Chicago. So, my story, I actually fell into real estate sort of by accident. So going through law school, you kind of don't know what type of law you want to practice. And, patent law was really big in DePaul. So I went to school with a lot of engineers. And I knew I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do divorce. I didn't really want to do criminal or litigation, but I fell in love with my property law classes, and I was the one and only one. And so I thought everyone hated property law, like hated it. Probably because they gave us a multiple choice test, and you never want to give multiple choice when in law school because you have to analyze and explain yourself. But anyways, I fell in love with that. So I knew I want to be a real estate attorney when I graduated. So the market crashed. That happened, and I needed a job during law school. So the real estate firms weren't hiring, and I needed a job. So I applied for a job as a secretary for a discount brokerage company. So I became their secretary, learned kind of the real estate side of things. And they said, well, if you get your real estate license, you can help us with the sales, open houses. You can't sit open houses if you don't have your real estate license. So I did that. And what happened is I just did real estate sales on the side for friends and family, and then graduated law school and went to be a full-time lawyer. And I worked for banks in mortgage foreclosure. So I was in the heart of mortgage foreclosure from 2009 to 2015. So I unfortunately evicted a lot of people, but it's interesting because, when people talk about market crashes and loans, and they were giving loans to everyone back then, I can speak to that, which is really kind of cool. So anyways, I did mortgage foreclosure, and then I was in-house counsel for a private equity group, and they bought delinquent tax certificates. So just a very niche field, like the Illinois property tax code, and basically kind of the same thing. If you don't pay your property taxes, my company, like they're almost in every state now, First National Assets, but I was one of 3 attorneys. So I had a lot of work on my plate, but I got to work with abstracts, title, I would review those. And a lot of times the companies would make mistakes. As we know, title companies make mistakes as well. So that's just my attitude.
Human. Everybody makes mistakes.
Unfortunately. And then the settlement statements, and it just blows my mind that I don't even know, maybe 10% of agents even read that. And I see mistakes in probably one of every 3. So that could cost your client a lot of money. But anyways, so I decided the Chicago winters, I was over it. My twin brother lived in Scottsdale, so I've been visiting him, and I fell in love with Scottsdale. So I moved here, was it 8 years ago? And I did collection for a year, business collection, which is a lot of contract review, promissory notes, and settling debt. So those skills were enhanced there. And I got tired of working for the man. I wanted to work for myself. I enjoyed the real estate part because of my personality. I was a good lawyer, and I was good at what I did, and a good writer, and good in court, but I was missing that passion, you know what I mean? And I wanted to be with my clients. And as a lawyer, you're just kind of sitting back there. Sometimes you don't even know your client, like they're a bank or an investor or something like that. So anyways, I left, and I kind of did because I know a lot of agents struggle with, do I leave my full-time job? But if you don't, you're kind of not getting where you need to be in real estate fast enough. So I kind of did I told my boss that I was going to, starting January 1st, I'll work part-time. And then I kind of just branched out. And really, I think, in getting to the luxury, I did not do luxury. Well, and I consider luxury, luxury for Phoenix, Scottsdale is probably over $1 million. Phoenix average price point now is maybe 500-ish. Yeah. But that's Phoenix. You're not, Paradise Valley, I don't know, 2.5-ish.
Wow.
So, it's a whole nother level. And starting as a new agent, I don't think that's impossible per se, but speaking to people that are listening to the podcast, they could be new agents starting out who want to be in luxury. And to be honest, everyone wants to be in luxury because the amount of money that you make, on one sale of a house is, you're paying off your car, you're paying off your, mortgage and a few sales or something like that. So, when I hear that, it's like, that's fine, but you need to pair yourself with a mentor or a team or a group that is in luxury, because you'll only be as good as, your mentor. If you're further in your career, like me, I didn't start out in luxury. I knew, and then I kind of started over because I was a full-time lawyer, part-time agent, and I moved here and I knew I had to learn Arizona law. I had to get licensed here as a lawyer too. And there's differences. Like in Illinois, there's an attorney review period. So after, offer acceptance, it goes to the lawyers and the lawyers sort it out. Which is a reason I was a broker in Illinois and I'm not a reason in Arizona, because to me, the liability to be a broker here is much more high because your agents who you've hired, I mean, let's be honest, they're out there practicing law. They're saying things that maybe they shouldn't be saying, and they're filling out counteroffers and addendums, and they're not putting the solar, lease in the contract, and then somebody's other person. So, so I'm just an agent here at broker in Illinois, but my story getting into luxury was, I spent the first few years just hustling. I didn't know anyone here except my brother. And sitting open houses, taking advantage of those opportunities, my mentors' listings, because I didn't have any, telling everyone I'm a real estate agent. And I mean, it took a couple of years to really just stay in front of people. So luxury, I kind of gradually got into luxury. I mean, a couple of years ago, I worked for an investor in California, and he bought 13 homes with me that year. Wow. And I learned that I enjoy working with investors a little bit more, because I love my clients just the same, but investors are very an offer's an offer, a deal's a deal, and they go for it. And I think as a lawyer, you need to separate that. Your personal life is your one way and your work is whatever. So there was that, lack of emotion involved, I could say. So I understand I want to be with investors. So, from there, I just came up with the idea that I was going to look up, the top 10 builders in the Phoenix area. Because I thought with a builder, you get in good with a builder, you're getting multiple listings instead of just one. So, and
only having to communicate with, one or two people on that end versus 13 different people when they, if they list 13 houses themselves.
Yeah. Investors are way to go. And if you treat them well, they are return, and they take care of you. So.
Well, and it's more of it's less education on your end too. I mean, and some people,
they know what they want, and you're going to have to do it their way.
Right.
I was going to say there's always a con to really anything, and even luxury. Investors, depending on their personalities, they'll sometimes fight over little fees or don't think they need to pay it, or, it's everyone's different. But so I called up all these, builders, and I thought, okay, how am I going to get in front of these very high-powered people? They've been in the business, some of them for decades. And I feel my success is fueled by knowing, what my competitors are possibly saying. And that's just the way my mind works, how to overcome problems and overcome objections. So I thought, okay, let's be honest, I don't have the name, at the time I didn't have the name brand, here, maybe there's 15, 20 agents that just dominate Arcadia, Phoenix, which is the luxury area in Phoenix. They dominate Paradise Valley, dominate certain areas of Scottsdale. So I knew I didn't have the name, yet. And I knew that these people were really busy. So sitting, having someone that they don't know sitting and, taking the time, an hour of their time to talk to me, I knew their time was valuable. So my strategy was, and, if you're not a lawyer, that's fine. You just got to find how you can provide value to them. You want to ask them how you can help their business, how you can help them find properties, because no builder ever really says, no, you can't find me a property. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, no one's going to say that. They're going to go with somebody who's, finding them properties. So anyways, I said, I'm an attorney. And because of that, I have connections with other attorneys such as probate, divorce. So I'm privy to those properties that are distressed or motivated, sellers, and even outside of that, I'm able as a lawyer to call these other lawyers and say, hey, what's going on with this property? Are you going to trial? Are you, versus an agent could call a lawyer and the lawyer's like, I will not speak to you. This is attorney-client privilege. But if I can call and say, this is my client, he's interested in purchasing. So it's just that extra level. But anyways, most of them, their response was either, oh, I have an exclusive agent, or I'm busy. But like when I mentioned the lawyer, get that out, they're like, oh, that's interesting. And I would say, over half of them sat down with me. So I got in front of these people, and I've just been working that relationship for the last year or two, like finding them properties. And that could be, I've done drive-bys. So I'll pull, lists of big land opportunities. I'm not a big dialer. And if I dial, it's like I dial 20 properties and hit that hard versus, like I know Haas is one of our.
Yeah. Haas has been a guest twice on the podcast.
I love Haas.
And I know, and I feel like, and it's hard as an agent because you're always making choices because you could be doing a million things to build your business every day, but you also need to learn like what you enjoy. Like Haas's strategy is, he's a listing boss. Like he's dialing. He's got like people that are helping him with that. Yeah. My strategy is more of like, okay, I'm focused on a certain area versus just calling the whole community. And I'm calling people in my investors buy box. So I know, looking for an acre, acre plus tear down or lot in Paradise Valley, their setbacks or dimensions and stuff. So, I've been able to, one, get in front of these people, and two, nurture those relationships. So
yeah, love it. And like, I'm sure the more you did that, the more confident you became with it. And the more like focused you became on who you were calling to. Like you said, like you knew what your investors buy box was. And the beauty of that too, is that even if it's not for your investor you're calling for, it could be for someone else. That could be another listing for you.
Yeah. And that's a good point, because I have a lot of agents like, well, I don't have a buyer. And I'm like, it's a little like, borderline, but you could find them a buyer, that's, and I never say I have a buyer. I said, I may have a buyer for your property. It's appealing. Sometimes if you can get them to invite, if you ask them, hey, I can't give you a definite offer price until I see your home or I walk your lot or something. Mm-hmm. That gets your foot in the door. And then if it's a good fit for your buyer or builder. If it's not, at least you can say, and it works sometimes, at least you can say, hey, this isn't a good fit, but knowing that you're considering, selling, at what price would you sell that home? And at that point, it's like, then you're having that conversation and hope you get a listing appointment. Your first choice is double ending the deal. Your second choice is, putting them on the MLS.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, I think it even shows your hustle with it too. I don't think that would, like, it shows that you're out there calling when a lot of other agents aren't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say, and with luxury, they're all successful. You have to be a good agent to keep doing business. But I don't know, maybe 75% or more. I'm not sure on the percentage, but a lot of them, were born into it, or, their best friend is an NBA player. And I'm not going to say that's easy for them.
Yeah.
But, so when you ask for advice from other luxury agents, you also want to understand their story.
Yeah.
Maybe their story is, and unfortunately, sometimes their story is, oh, well, I just got one and then they came. And then that's fine. But if your story is, my husband is a surgeon and I sold our house and then all the other surgeons hired me because my husband's a surgeon. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not a good agent and you're not hustling, because you still got to be a good agent.
Yeah.
But trying to compare yourself to somebody like that, and like somebody like me comes from a town of 1,200 people, I literally had to start from scratch. So you have to maybe you are that person. If you're already in that circle, they need to know you're an agent. You need to nurture that. But outside of that, building the relationships and the trust, providing value like ADTV has been great. And I'm sure you'll say the same thing, is offering that value. Barry Goldwater, he's, big in, Phoenix area, former president, nomination and everything like that. I was able to call Barry and say, and he didn't know me, and say, hey, would you like to talk about the history of Paradise Valley? And he said, okay. So it gives you that platform. So finding things like that, which is easy. If you're hired with ADTV, you could be a new agent and call up a builder and say, hey, I have this opportunity for you. And you get your foot in the door. And then above that, I will say working with wealthy people is a whole nother ball game. Everyone is different. You have new money and you have old money, and you treat everyone just the same, but you'll have, I don't know, it's just a whole new level of.
I just said that other day in a meeting. It's a $1.3 million new build, and the seller agent just kept on. And I finally had to call his coworker, and it was just like, it's not going to work if he's going to stay at this table. And that these people get what they want. So eliminate. I don't care how you do it, just eliminate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also feel like, too, money or not, at the end of the day, we're humans. And that's why, sometimes you can't teach these skills. I mean, you learn the confidence over time, and I remember when I first started open houses, and even as a lawyer and being in court and having to think off my feet, I remember I was so anxious to get my first deals, as a full-time agent, hey, how are you guys doing? Well, I would love for you to leave your information before you leave, being that a little too overeager, and they run out of the house. And I thought, I said the wrong thing. You know what I mean? So, and you will, and there's people that don't leave information with me. And I think, okay, that's fine. Well, I'm here for you. So you kind of learn those skills. But Monday, I'm waiting to hear back on my biggest listing.
Ooh.
So we'll see. That's $8 million. So yeah.
Awesome.
Woo. Yeah, so by the time this comes out, we'll know.
Oh my gosh, I know. And I'm I don't usually get nervous, but I don't know. I'm nervous. It's out of my control, but I did the best I could do, and show my value, because my skill sets, I feel that are very superior. But at the same time, a name in the luxury market that's been here for decades means a lot. But if you find the right client, that a name isn't everything. But I found him, honestly, by doing drive-bys. I saw what I thought was a vacant lot, through Property Radar. And I drive by because I want to know if there's a sign in the ground, if they started building. So if they start building and there's not a realtor sign, I call the builders and I say, is this custom? Do you already have a buyer for it? If yes, it's okay. My second choice is, all right, well, I work with builders, I'm a lawyer, blah, blah, blah. Here's my value. Would you be free for coffee, next week or something? So worst case, I still get to be friends with them if they're like, well, I have an exclusive agent, then I'll just say, you know, I'm here if you ever need contract review or whatever. I value that relationship. So I kind of like am that person that doesn't like to hear no. So you kind of go down the line, like this is my first choice. But anyways, I called the owner of that lot, and he was building a home for himself.
Mm-hmm.
So I called him. It was funny because I said, oh, you know, like, is this for you? Or do you have a buyer? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm building a home, but I need to sell my home. So I didn't even know that he owned another home in Paradise Valley or what that address was. I just found it by going by the lot. So I looked up his name, and thankfully I found what home he was referring to, because I thought, I'm sitting here trying to like get in front of him, and I'm like, I don't even know his address. So I basically called him, and he's very business oriented, and he owns a lot of businesses. And they sometimes come off as, okay, I'm bothering them. Like a lot of times, like he's very short on the phone. I was the only one to call him, but he took my call. Okay, while I'm in meetings, if they're in trustee meetings, they're wealthy. I found that out, like,
Yes.
okay, if there's some trust involved, and I'm like, other people have trust, but if you have trust meetings and you're in a lot of meetings all the time and you're a business person, you're probably wealthy. But you kind of learn all these things, but you never really know until you get to know somebody. But I just followed up with him every week. Like he was like, oh, okay, call me next week, whatever. Called him next week. And I mean, the phone calls were like probably 20 seconds. And there was a lot of times where I called him and I'm like, I'm bothering him. Like you still, because you're in that field of, you still get nervous. Like, you still are like, I'm at that level. I know I'm worthy of it, but it's like also newer to me. So no, I just, I'm traveling, and I just kept following up. He didn't block me. He didn't tell me to never call him again. So I kept calling him, and he invited me over, and I walked through the house. And he invited me a second time because he said he wanted me to meet his live-in girlfriend, which I was also nervous about because, I mean, let's be honest, and guys could be the same way, but like when you're meeting a wife or a girlfriend or a fiance, when you've already established a relationship over the phone, sometimes you will get that, like, who is this person? Because sometimes the male, and it could work the other way, like isn't telling her, not because there's anything inappropriate, but just so walking in, I had no idea. I dress, feminine, but conservative, which I do normally. So anyways, he wanted me to meet his live-in girlfriend because he values her opinion. So I talked with my Tom Ferry coach, which, I recommend if you can afford it down the road to have a coach because they keep you accountable. Yeah. But he and I both agreed that it's like, okay, he told me that he values his girlfriend's opinion. I want her to feel just as important, one, because it makes her feel good and she's going to feel comfortable with me and like me. Yeah. It's going to make him feel good and like, hey, I'm respecting, especially if you're not married, but I'm respecting your relationship. I'm respecting. So going in, I met her. I brought my designer. I brought her husband, who's a contractor, because I knew I wanted him to see that I had a team, because a lot of times with luxury, if they don't know your name quite so much, or if you haven't been in luxury space for a long time, I've gotten pushback. Are you sure you can afford this level of marketing? Who's your team? So you want to go prepared, like, hey, like, cause he has a red wall, a green wall, like there's some things that we need to do. And you want to like, let them know I'm going to take all this off his plate. Like he has, he's a hunter. So like, obviously want to like make sure he's got storage units for that and stuff. And so I was able to provide that to him. So it went well, and I'm hopeful. There's not much else I can do, but we'll see.
Yes. Okay. I've got two questions.
Yeah.
Just based on that whole story. Okay. So you mentioned a tool that you were using. I think it sounded like a tool, Property Radar, I think you said.
Yeah, I use Property Radar. I mean, you can pull lists from your title company and they're free, but Property Radar isn't, I don't know, $50 a month. It's not that expensive, but it's so in depth, like where you can search. Oh my gosh, you can search like if a business is underwater, like equity, obviously lot size, all that kind of stuff. There's heat maps. There's like, you can pull, like I want to pull a list of, because I'm seeing that there's a lot of competition with local builders and they've worked with the same agent for decades. So it's very hard to break into that. But I'm seeing that out of state investors who, especially from California, I mean, even Florida now, because of insurance, that they're coming here. So I'm going to actually today pull a list. You're able to pull a list of any businesses that own multiple properties in a certain area. And I also use Where Money Walks, and you go to your state and you can actually see how much money, income, GDP comes in from other states.
Wow.
Comes out. So for us, I think last time I checked, it was, California, actually Minnesota was up there, Oregon, Washington, and it'll narrow it down.
Getting out of the cold.
Counties, I know. And so you're looking at those people, but a lot of those people don't have an agent. So, just staying consistent, I think and not giving up. I mean, you ladies would say the same thing. And that's why so many people don't make it and they think it's easy, and it's not easy. And it's never easy. And even as a lawyer, I call my broker. I mean, there were some times I had some terrible deals, like crazy deal, like people threatening to sue my client because they didn't get their offer accepted, like just stuff like that, like, I don't even know how any other agent would handle it because it's stressful. And like, having your broker there, and I always email my broker, put it on them. I save the email to the file. Like, But, so it's been a crazy year with interest rates, and just, you would say the same thing, but we just pivot, and I feel like the best agents will survive. So
people that's willing to get in, be consistent, and get up and put in the work. So.
And you know what? You're rejected. I mean, I'm rejected. People look at me and they're like, oh my God, you're perfect. I'm like, if you know me, like, especially ask Sam, she's my co-list agent. Like, I'm like, please help me. Like, I can't figure out this setting or something like that. Or, I mean, I'm nervous. I was nervous for that listing appointment, but you just got to push through, and you're just literally rejected. If you don't like being rejected, real estate is not for you. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, just like sales in general, honestly.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just because they reject you now doesn't mean that they're not going to use you in the future or circle back around.
That's a very good point.
Block you is like, if they block you, you're like, well, you're lost.
I didn't want to be a part of that anyways.
Yeah.
You might have saved me a lawsuit or something.
Well, exactly. Absolutely.
Okay, second question I had. So you talked about like builders or sellers or investors, wanting to make sure that you could afford the amount of spend on marketing to list their property. In the luxury market, do you have like kind of an average that you're going to be spending on each property to market it?
So overall, my marketing expenses, I mean, my coach, Tom Ferry, advises that your marketing expenses should be about 10 to 15% of your income.
Yeah.
I mean, with luxury, so I mean, you're looking, okay, so let's just say 8 million, roughly. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't be that much. I mean, because you're looking at Lux VT is a new program. I think you know about this.
Yes. Will you just like touch on that a second for our?
Oh yeah. So it's a program that's just like a flat fee. It's like not even $1,000. So, I mean, I'll give you it this way. A luxury photographer for that type of home, I mean, may charge you like 2,500. You're looking at, Lux VT will charge you, probably $1,000. And what that is, they send it globally, So,
So like a syndication type deal, like they send it to like the New York Times, Miami Times type.
yeah. So you're looking at print, you're looking at video, photography. Now, if you get your client to pay for staging, you've eliminated that expense. And that's what's a good thing about, wealthy people. They usually don't have an issue with paying for that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, staging, yeah, you may pay, several thousands of dollars, 5,000. I mean, I think it's much more affordable than you think. And that's why it's important that you save, like you put a little in a bucket for a rainy day.
Yes.
So, and if you have to take out like a business loan that has good interest, like it's going to be well worth, it's going to be well worth it. But at the end of the day, like, thank God now for social media and Tarek, like Al Musa, we work, under him. And I told Lisa about this listing opportunity, and she said, oh my gosh, and Sharon Lecter, if you get this listing, I'll call Tarek and Tarek will promote this for you. So these are like being with EXP and these people, that's free. So back in the day, decades ago, absolutely. Like you're spending maybe not as much money, but so it's actually much, cheaper than you would think. But the thing is that the homes sit on the market much longer.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to have those conversations up front.
Right.
Hey, we're at the top of the market for what, I really think it would go for. We have to be ready for, price reduction. Then you get people that like, well, I don't have to sell my house. I mean, they have so much unlimited income. To them, it's more of sometimes, unless they're moving out of state, it's more of a convenience not to have the home. Many of them own it outright. So I guess you could say the objection is a little bit, so it's a much more difficult to have those conversations or them to even lower the price. That's why you see so many homes and if you're getting in Paris Valley over 5-6 million, that's a harder price point. And also you need to call the experts, in that field. So I called them like, hey, what are you seeing price per square foot now in these areas? Because you have to know the boundaries. Like, okay, west of Tatum, you're not, I mean, new builds, you could get 1,200 a square foot, 1,000 to 1,200 a square foot in most areas of Paradise Valley. But you would probably see that your market, but don't necessarily need to, you don't necessarily know that, even if you do the drive-bys and stuff, because the luxury agents, they're seeing it and they're seeing that their clients are paying or they aren't paying it. So you have to put your ego aside and know that if you're trying to break into a market that you don't know. And if you think you know everything, you're just not going to be successful, because you're never going to work on yourself. You're never going to so I would say kind of like use other experts, you know what I mean? Like find out, hey, it looks like you have a beautiful home. Like, a lot of times they won't let you see it unless it's like empty or built. That's another thing is you're not in luxury. You're not doing open houses, I mean, the level of, wealth and vehicles and stuff in their home is like, you're there for the showings. So that's another added cost if you have to drive in your time, so yeah.
Absolutely. And going back to like utilizing our celebrities, even like I'm in a very affordable market. Luxury for us is like probably 650, 6 to 6. Well, actually probably 6 and up, and 600,000, not 6 million. Let me clarify that. This is in San Angelo, Texas.
Yeah.
Not in Dallas, but even I've had Elena repost my pieces. I've had Tarek reposts my houses. Not Sharon yet, but that's not even with me, like even reaching out. They just saw it and were, being nice. So yeah, that's definitely.
Well, and you guys know this, and with really in any market, and it's much harder now because it's not the frenzy it used to be, especially if you're, overpriced or you're at the top of and your seller is just holding firm on that, is the more eyes that you have on the property. And I'm amazed, even at luxury agents. I mean, maybe it's because I'm a perfectionist, but I don't see any agent have any community shots, any mountain drone, like,
Yeah.
And the thing is that especially when you have a lot of out-of-state buyers, you're not only selling the home, you're selling the lifestyle. And I even do that with 350 listings or 500 listings where I don't know. And it's not that much more added expense. So, I mean, like, I don't know, maybe people get busy and they just slap it on the market. So if I get this listing, I'm excited because it's my opportunity to just be like, wow, because luxury agents also, they push back on you. Like literally sometimes it'll be like, tell me about your buyer. Who is your buyer? Whatever. If you go there and have a video showing, I had one say, they were coming from California. So they were looking around 3 to 4 million and they're big clients. And, I told them a little bit about them. You never want to reveal too much information because, people are private, but enough information to know you, like, I have a legitimate client anyways, especially if they haven't done a lot of deals with you. And I walked in and it was like, make sure you don't post this to social media. And I was like, no, I would not walk in, and I think there's just that level of like, who is this person that's coming in? I work with builders now, and a lot of people dominate the market in that. So you will get that. It's just kind of made me more determined to but now I'm friends with them and like, engaging and like, hey, I have this coming up. And it's like a fraternity and a sorority, like, and I just think a lot of people are just, maybe they don't have the confidence or they just like, but you break in though, but once you're in, like you're in, but you have to maintain your relationship too. And,
So why would they not want it on social media? Because their clients said they didn't want it on social media?
Well, yeah, it could be several things. It could have been, that was something she was saying to assert a domination over me or something. There was that level because she worked with some builders that I now work with, and they just want to dominate the market. So they see anyone new. It could have been something like that, maybe not, or it could have been, I don't know, or it could have just been they just don't like their clients private. It was interesting to me because it was an empty house. So
yeah,
it could have been several things, but like I just was very kind and I was like, absolutely not. Like this video is, for my client, so
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But usually agents are okay with that. But in luxury, you don't do that in luxury without getting written permission from somebody. And at that level, price level, I don't know, even asking somebody is kind of a no. It's like, I mean, you need proof of funds, pre-qualification. I've in that price point, some agents, like even bringing up, like I brought up one time interest rates or something, and it was with a luxury agent. And they were like, yeah, our buyers are all cash. We don't worry about interest rates. And I'm like, okay, like, and
we're here.
honestly are kind of right. So it's just like that level of dialogue. And it's like, oh, well, I've got clients in every price point. So like, I'm mindful of interest rates. You know what I mean? So you kind of like pat them on the back, like, but it is like that. Like you're literally like, what are you talking about interest rates? Like your buyer's not cash. Like, it's just like this whole level of, and I'm like, there's some business people that use a loan if the rate's low because they want to invest money otherwhere. So to me, I would never push back on a buyer. To me, I'm always like, we're open to offers. Like, keep the dialogue open is what I say, because I've seen people write lower offers that come up substantially and people are offended. Like, no, I'm not countering that. And it's like, that's just not good negotiating. I don't know if you guys see that. I'm like, can you counter? Like,
Yep.
it's interesting.
That happened to me last night. I had somebody, it's a $3.5 million deal, and I got him a cash offer closing in 90 days. He's been on the market for almost 6 months.
Oh no.
And they came in at 2.2 and he started laughing and hung up on me. I was like,
the agent or the seller?
That sounds about right.
You were?
Was it the agent or the seller?
It was my client, my seller.
Oh, your seller.
And then he just sent me a row of laughing and crying faces. And I was like, so should I take this as we're not negotiating? And he sent me the thumbs up.
I know. And
I'm now negotiating through emojis.
I know. And with that, it's like, you just have to know your client, because like, I had one guy who's like, oh, it was a small condo, but he didn't have to sell it. He's like, well, I just don't have to sell my condo, but I can't remember if it was a low offer or not. So I was like, okay, people make decisions based off of pleasure or pain. Anyone can say they don't need to sell their home, but like in his example, another condo went on the market that was substantially lower price, because like the prices were kind of leveling. It was a few years ago. And I sent it to him and I said, hey, I know you said, you want full price or whatever. You don't need to sell your condo, but just to let you know, this one just went on the market substantially lower than ours. When this goes under contract, which will probably in a few days, this is something we're going to have to overcome with an appraisal comps. And he begrudgingly, he was like upset. He's like, okay, fine. Like, I'll take this offer, because he knew that comp is there forever. So he can say he doesn't want to sell his home, but he also doesn't want to lose money. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that works. And then sometimes people just don't want to listen. And then you just go to the, you go to the other agent and like, hey, my client didn't accept this offer. I recommend, because I know my client really well, that your client come in with their highest and best, and just say verbally. And if, they're still low, then at that point you're way too far apart anyways.
Yeah.
But like, and then you're just like, I don't know. I'm of that opinion where I get that the same way too.
Yeah.
Let me ask you your opinion on this, and then I'm going to nicely ask you to share this property that I have.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you do when you have clients? I don't even know if we're to the question and answer part, but I've been holding on to this question. I don't want to forget to ask it. I have this one property, and it's been on the market for 130 days now. We have had multiple showings every week on it. He did a phenomenal job. His price point, he should have went for $599, and he would have got multiple offers and probably landed over $700,000. He went for $689.
Okay.
We've now done a price reduction to $649.
Okay.
And no offers. Everybody, we love the house. We love the house. We love the house. Price too high. And I respond with, send me an offer. Like, send me an offer. Like anything, like anything. And let's get the conversation started. And he was just like, no. That's, how do I get people moving on that?
Okay. My answer to that is these people just don't like the house, because if you're getting that many showings, that means you have really good marketing. Your photos must be good because you're bringing a lot of people through the house. If you aren't getting showings, then I would say you're overpriced. So even though I agree, I'm that strategy too, like explaining to people, and most people get it, but they always want to be like, well, I want a net $599. And like, don't people write lower offers? And, explaining that like, by $599, or anything over $600, you've just excluded, thousands of people that won't see your home. But for that, I mean, I don't know if you want to share, but there's probably, has anyone said any feedback about you know,
The
they're,
big thing is he doesn't have a refrigerator in it. He's refusing. He goes, if you're buying in this price point, you can afford your own refrigerator.
oh no, I would definitely, if that somebody, well, first of all, here's the thing is I think that if you have this many showings, if somebody liked the house, they would say, I'm writing an offer, but you need to credit me for a refrigerator. You know what I mean? Like,
We
because,
have it in there that he's willing to pay for it.
okay, well then I feel like, and I've also seen a lot of things where people don't write an offer, because I'm seeing this too. I don't know if you're seeing this, Hallie, but people, because they don't really need to buy, a lot of them don't need to buy right now with the interest rates, that they're just being super picky. So I've seen people circle where they don't write an offer, and they circle back, and you just have to be patient. So it could be probably one of those situations.
I did get an email the other day asking if we had any other offers. So
Yeah,
like holding on.
Yeah, they're searching, and I mean, it's like dating, where it's just like, well, maybe I can find better, and then they come back and they're like, well, no, like I can't find better. You know what I mean? Like it's just so funny. Like people will be like, ugh, I don't like the paint color, and I don't.
Maybe when I go on vacation next week, I'll get an offer.
Yeah, I think
I don't know how else to sell it. We go on vacation.
putting that out in the universe. But no, the fact I had one, I don't know. I think I've lost maybe 2 in my whole career, like listings, and they were usually due to just them being very challenging. But I had a condo, and it was a very cute condo in Central Scottsdale. It was priced right, marketed well, and I mean, we same thing. Like in 2 weeks, we had, I don't know, 20 showings or whatever. Every single feedback was, it faces the dumpster, it faces the dumpster, it faces the dumpster. So I relayed this.
I remember this one now.
Yes. And I was so upset about it. And Hallie was like, screw them. And I'm like, ugh, I don't like losing business. And I finally realized, like, you know, it was crazy because before I list a house, I always call the units around or the houses around. Like, I make notes, like how long they've been on the market. Did they get an offer? What's their feedback? Because, you know, and even the active ones, like we want to know, like, okay, we're pricing at $599 because we're the only person within a mile.
I gave him that price point. I was like,
Oh, no,
we go to relist, because he bought it for a certain price and then he redid it and he went over the top on everything. And I'm like,
yeah,
you're competing with brand new builds. Like you can put everything brand new in this, but it's still not a new house. It's not a new neighborhood.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
No, this lady was like, I don't know if it was like a friend or whatever. And she's like, yeah, my friend said that it should be sold in 2 weeks. I mean, this was 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And so I'm just in a really big hurry to sell my condo. And I had talked about her. I was like, well, we can lower the price. I don't recommend doing that after 2 weeks when we've had 20 showings. But I even called the other agents and I was like, how many showings have you got? And they're like, 2. So like explaining that to her, that like, it sounds like you've done everything you need to do. And like Hallie said, just like, you just got to let it go. Like I would wait for the circling, and then I would wait January, because I don't know.
That's what happened with the last one, because he had another one. He had it and it was at 1.5 and we needed to be at 1.2. And he's like, no. Finally, I got into 1.35. I got on the plane to Vegas and multiple offers. So another thing, he doesn't allow me to stage, but as soon as I knew he was in a place that he didn't have, he lives in Thailand part-time. And then Kuwait the other part-time, and then on some island that you have to show your finances just to get on this island. So like the other part of the time of the year. So and a win was I just got his one property that was overpriced. I help him rent properties out as well. We got finally a lease on it this week. So I'm like,
yay.
So I got good news for him, which is good, but now I need to just get the contract on this house.
And you just have to be patient. Like I tell people, like in a normal market, you don't even think about lowering the price for like 45 days. So like, I think people are slowly adjusting to that. There's that stigma of, well, what's wrong with it when it's been like average. I don't know about your markets, average days on market for our area so far, like 35 days.
Ours is like 45, 50.
So explaining that to people, but then there's people that it's like, you hired me to listen to me. And if you don't listen to me, it's like, I don't know, you just can put so much energy into it. But
I
yeah.
told somebody the other day when I'm getting ready to list her house, and I was very proud of how I worded it. I said to her, I said, well, you're paying me to do this, and this is my professional opinion. I'm going to end up doing what you want to, but it would be easier to do it my way. And if we go with the medium number and it still doesn't sell, it means your high number really wouldn't have sold. Yeah. So, and she looked and she goes, that's a good point. But the good news is if you go with mine, chances are you getting multiple offers are really good and getting over that high price.
Right. That's exactly what I say. And, now I'm starting to think, I just need to but you have a duty to your client to obey their price. Like, you know what I mean? But like, sometimes I feel like I wish I should be so much firm, like, okay, I can't work with you if you don't have this price, but it's hard. But I do give them that 2 option. Like, okay, this is my price, $599. They wanted, $615 or $625. Like, hey, if we choose your route within 30 days without an offer, we need to lower it.
And he did lower it, but
every time so far, knock on wood, every time we go with their higher price, every single time that I can remember, it doesn't get an offer. And we end up lowering. And when they lower, like every single time, there's just this. And I tell people, even with this market, it's so important to price property right. Like if you overprice it a little bit, I mean, you're talking like 100+ days on market and 50,000, 100,000 less in your pocket. But some people listen, some people don't.
We had a personal property we listed, and I was here 373, 375, and I was like, if it's not selling, let's drop it. As soon as we dropped to 373, multiple offers. So,
I know.
Yeah, it's
an art form. Like people.
He's gonna circle back around probably in the next week, and was like, I feel $599 would have been a good price.
Yeah.
And I had my assistant with me. I take a backup now when I negotiate with him, and I'm like, you're hearing this. I'm telling him with everything in me. I got a little bloopy going by that says $599.
The worst is I've fired 2 clients. I mean, I walked away from, $3 million, one person, and I've walked away an investor that bought, 13 homes with me in 1 year just because it just was kind of toxic. But the worst is when they have selective amnesia. Well, you never told me that, like kind of the thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm professional. I'm not going to argue with you. And I just think to myself, okay, they know deep down that I did, that's the worst when it's like, well, okay, that's your version of the truth.
Yeah. I follow up with text messages and everything.
I know. Like
just that way I'm like, let's go back and
yeah. So email.
Well, do you mind sharing that property if I send it to you?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll all share.
Yeah.
Yes.
All of our.
If you got anything you want me to share, I'll do as well. Because investors.
You never know. I know, especially with Raleigh to like Scottsdale, Phoenix, especially.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, we are coming up on an hour. Audrey, any other last minute comments or hacks, tips, and tricks you want to share?
And just be yourself. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just real. Like, what you see is what you get. And especially in the luxury world, you will have the fancy cars and the fancy suits. And, you want to look nice, but just be yourself, because I think you may win a listing because you look fancy or whatever. But if you are not really proving yourself and providing value, like at some point, people are going to start to see that. So just be yourself. And your mentor is everything. Just soak up the knowledge. Yeah.
Yep. I love it. Yes.
Yep. So.
Okay. So relying on mentors too. I'm going to have to chat with you about that later. For those following, I guess not, or watching our video, I do have Audrey's contact email in the little banner at the bottom, audrey.myers@exprealty.com. I think you do actually, now that I think about it, use another email, but I know that one will forward to your email. So that's always a good one. And then also she's Your Agent Audrey on Instagram. If you want to see her social media presence, I personally love your social media. I think you do such a good job of bringing yourself, your personal self into it, but also showcasing your houses and your business too. And And then also give me and Casey a follow on social media as well. And like we said before, don't forget to subscribe to us on either Apple or Spotify podcasts. Please leave us reviews. That helps us, just make this that much better. And we want to take this big in 2024 and beyond. So, thank you guys for coming on and listening. Thank you, Audrey, for sharing your wealth of knowledge. We've got so many good little bits in here. I can't wait to make little social media posts out of these. There's just so many good little gems that we.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, ladies.
Awesome. Thank you guys, and we'll be on next Monday. Anybody you want to have come on, send us a DM on social on your preference of social media platform. We are all ears, and just want to tailor this to what you guys want as much as possible. Thank you again. We appreciate you all.
Thank you, Audrey.
Thanks. Bye.
And Happy New Year.